What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. And we got some major news here. More interest rates hikes coming in July, and they could be major and could affect your pocketbooks. And we got some states potentially sending out stimulus checks here as high as $2,000. We'll be covering that here in this video. We've got a lot really to cover in this video. So if you haven't subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. And remember that new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, thanks for hitting the like button for us down below. Let's jump right in. So we've had several interest rate hikes already this year, and it's affecting pretty much everybody. If you have a credit card interest balance, or if you have a credit card balance, you're paying interest on that. Interest rates on credit cards are creeping up because they're not fixed interest, they're not fixed rates. Those are creeping up. And mortgage rates, if you don't have a fixed rate mortgage on your home, those have skyrocketed. Check this out. I'll just pick California here because it's the largest state. But you can see here the average 30-year mortgage rate is at about 6.5% right now. And just back in April alone, it was near 5%. So you can see here it's jumped up pretty dramatically. In fact, averages were just around 7% here recently. So looks like they fluctuated here a little bit in the last week. But with them going, well, gonna go up here again. Looks like the average 30-year mortgage could be going up here for anybody who is going to be buying a new home or refinancing here, could be paying over 7%. Now, historically, this might not seem so bad because in the past, here's a historical 30-year mortgage rate graph since 1970, 1971 here. And you can see here that, yeah, the average since 1971 is actually 7.77%. That's a lucky number, but almost 8%. So we're actually still below the 30-year average. But if you remember rates back in the 90s, 2000s, 8%. Go back to the 80s, you're looking at 10, 12%. Early 80s, 14%. Back in 1983, 14%. We go back to that's about 1980, 81-ish, 18% interest rates. Yeah, so it makes it seem, even with this rise in interest rates here, not so bad. But you can see here, it wasn't too long ago, just several months ago, that 30-year mortgage rates were about 3%. Anybody who got that was sitting pretty. Those were nice interest rates. But the thing is that this going from a 3% to a 7%, it costs a lot more money in interest. A lot. And you can see here, well, in fact, let me know if you had a mortgage in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, or the 2000s. I sound like a radio station. That's 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today, right? But let me know if you had a mortgage back in any of those years. What was your interest rate? What was your first mortgage? What was the interest rate, if you remember? Was it lower or was it higher than today's? Yeah, let me know in the comments. But as you can see here, they're expecting another triple interest rate hike in July. A 75-point basis hike in July. So they consider a 25 basis point hike a single, a 50 basis point hike a double, and a 75 basis point hike a triple. Remember, they just did a triple interest rate hike, the last one here, just a few weeks ago. They're expecting to do another one in July. Yikes. Yeah, you can see here Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman said Thursday that she expects the central bank to raise interest rates by another 0.75 percentage points at its next monetary policy meeting in July. In a speech to Massachusetts bankers on Thursday, she said she believes the Fed will need to issue its second consecutive 75 basis point hike in July, with several 50 basis point hikes to follow even after that. She said with inflation remaining unacceptably high, the Fed must move quickly to move its baseline interest rate range higher than where markets expect inflation to settle. Quote, I expect that an additional rate increase of 75 basis points will be appropriate at our next meeting, as well as increases of at least 50 basis points, half a percent, in the next few meetings as well, as long as the incoming data supports them. Depending on how the economy evolves, further interest rate increases in the target range for the federal funds rate may be needed after that. Now, the reason they do this, and you could see a little bit of it here, the Fed's goal is to slow the economy enough to reduce inflation without forcing Americans out of their jobs or stalling the growth altogether. But inflation has continued to surge despite several rapid rate hikes. And economists fear it may not come down until the Fed raises rates to a high enough level to slow the economy into a recession, which a lot of people are starting to think we're already in. Quote, while I expect that the labor market will remain strong as the FOMC continues to tighten monetary policy, these actions do not come without risk. But in my view, our number one responsibility is to reduce inflation. Maintaining our commitment to restore price stability is the best course to support a sustainably strong labor market because unemployment is really, really low. It's at 3.6%. The 50-year low mark is 3.5%. And remember, the Fed is not Democrat or Republican. In fact, the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, is actually a Republican. He was appointed as the Fed head by Trump. So he's not a Democrat. He's not a Biden supporter by any means. The Fed's credibility, earned over decades of low inflation, is a powerful policy tool that is critical to our long-term success. If that credibility erodes, it must be re-earned. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here. It's really tough because with inflation so high, raising interest rates actually hurts the common everyday man or woman um, even more. It's kind of sad, but that's one of the main ways to lower inflation. I know it hurts at the moment, but there's very few tools to lower inflation. Lower the federal gas tax, lower the state taxes, lower taxes in general, send out gas rebates, send out emergency stimulus checks to support the people. The UK is actually doing this. They have actually imposed a windfall. I'll show it on the screen so you can believe it or see it. The UK imposes a windfall tax on oil and gas company profits as inflation bites, and they're going to redistribute the money to their people. The UK is basically our closest ally. Um, I mean, literally, if they're not our closest ally, I don't know who would be. Maybe Canada or I don't know. But you can see here they announced a 25% windfall tax on the profits of oil and gas firms that would be used to support a $19 billion in assistance for low-income households struggling with a sharp spike in the cost of living. They're a smaller country than us, but it's so here in the U.S. it would be even more than that if you did it on the same scale. That the levy would be placed on energy companies who are making extraordinary profits. Does this sound familiar? Due to the spike in the prices following the reopening of the global economy and COVID restrictions eased and the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The profits did not arise because of changes to risk taking or innovation or efficiency. And for that reason, I am sympathetic to the argument to tax those profits fairly. In addition, the additional taxes will help pay for at least $1,500 in financial support to almost 8 million of Britain's most vulnerable households, the government said. So basically, they're taxing these oil companies and giving at least $1,500 in financial support to almost all 8 million of Britain's most vulnerable households. And get this, quote, today it feels like the chancellor has finally realized the problem that the country is facing. We welcome the fact that the government is finally acting on our calls to introduce a windfall tax. Boy, if only the US Congress could pass something like this. If only the Democrats and Republicans could come together. By the way, meanwhile, here in the US, ExxonMobil boss, major gas conglomerate, boss warns that oil turbulence could last 5 years. So, AKA, they would like to get away with 5 more years of price gouging if the US would let them. The UK is not letting them, but if the US would let them, they would like to get away with basically gouging us for many, many more years. There it is, black and white. Well, meanwhile, we do have a bunch of states here. If you've been watching my channel here, we do have a bunch of states that are giving back to their residents. Thank God. You can see here, Oregon to begin sending $600 stimulus payments to low-income workers this week. This week. Here's the details. We'll get to some more states here right after this. Oregon lawmakers in March approved the one-time stimulus payments for certain low-income workers. More than 200,000 workers will receive $600 checks from the states as soon as this week. Good for them. The payments will go out to Oregonians. That is an awesome name, is it not? Oregonians, who claimed the earned income tax credit in 2020. So they went off 2020 taxes instead of 2021 because people, hadn't filed them yet, really. A tax break for low-income working households and lived within the state in the last 6 months of that year. The Oregon Department of Revenue said Wednesday it would distribute nearly $141 million to 236,000 qualifying households. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. States helping out their residents, right? Good for them. About $82 million will be deposited directly into bank accounts of qualifying individuals, while remaining nearly $60 million will be sent via snail mail. The state said qualifying individuals will receive the money no later than July 1st. So a bunch of people will be having a happy 4th of July. The state is paying for the stimulus payments with the federal pandemic aid approved by Congress last year, which, by the way, each state got over $1 billion of. Almost every state really got billions with an S. So keep that in mind. Your state has billions, most likely, and hasn't spent it. I'll keep you up to date. Oregon says that the Department of Revenue said the payments are not subject to state or federal income tax. And it was passed by wide margins in both chambers of their legislature, with a handful of Republicans joining the majority of Democrats in supporting the bill. Yeah, pretty cool. Next up, in the state of Indiana, Governor Holcomb, who is a Republican, calls for a July 6th special session to send out $225 payments or checks for the state of Indiana. And this comes after Indiana already sent out $125 checks for their state. This would be round number 2. So as I said here, that some states are going to be sending more than one round of checks. And if your state hasn't sent a check out, or if you don't know about it, because a lot of states have done this, if you've been watching my channel, um, a lot of states have the money sitting there and maybe they just haven't figured out what to do with it yet, or they're thinking about it. They're working with their state legislature or waiting till closer to the election. This year's election. Remember, your governor is probably up for reelection. Your state legislature is probably up for reelection. Your federal state House representatives are up for reelection, and your senators, your federal senators, may be up for reelection. So there's a lot of elections. It's a good time to use the money because also inflation is just crazy. But also the money's just sitting there. Remember that billions of dollars went to each state from the stimulus package. $350 billion went to 50 states. So you can do the math. States with more population got more money because there's more people. Yeah, but Republican Governor Eric Holcomb sent a July 6th date for a special session for lawmakers to take action on his plan to give additional $225 payments to Indiana taxpayers struggling with inflation and high gas prices. This comes after they've already sent out $125 payments. This would be another round of $225 payments on top of that. Yeah, so this is what we need to see more of. More states doing this, the federal government doing this. This is exactly what we need. You can see here the government signed a proclamation Wednesday calling the General Assembly into a special session. So he's calling them into a special session just for this. This is the fastest, fairest, and most efficient way to return taxpayers' hard-earned money during a time of economic strain. Indiana's economy is growing with more than $1 billion of revenue over current projections, aka surplus money. I told you all these states are taking in way more money than normal because unemployment is really low and a lot of people are working and tax revenues are up. He says, I'm happy to be able to take the first step and look forward to signing this plan into law as soon as possible. He unveiled a plan to return $1 billion from the state's reserve to Hoosiers. As a result, taxpayers will receive about $225 each, and while couples who file jointly will receive $450. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? When combined with the other checks that were sent out, individuals would have gotten around $350 and couples would have received $700. And that's decent. That's not bad. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with more states as more information comes in, as well as the federal, the government, the national, United States government, as they consider pausing the federal gas tax, federal stimulus checks, gas rebate checks, debit cards, whatever they want to call it, as we get closer to the election. Remember that the federal government has a massive surplus of money now because of the unemployment being low, more tax revenue coming in. So do all the states. You can see here, just Indiana alone has an extra $1 billion sitting around that they want to use. Every state is like that at this point. California has $97 billion. The federal government has $1.5 trillion that they're going to just pay down the deficit if they don't use it. So there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to see my video on Russia, Ukraine, and potential World War III information that just came out. And this video on a major bill that just passed in the Senate that you got to see. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.